Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, this hour, we're going to talk about something that's a little bit more on the serious side.
That's us. We're serious.
We are super, super serious. Yeah, not usually. But and when I say serious, more along the lines of something on our pastoral side. Mm-hmm. This is Pop Culture Pastor. We talk about a lot of things that are happening out in the culture sometimes, but this is going to be on the more pastoral side because this is something I think we can all identify with, and it's about our parents. And I think we know this intrinsically, that we are, what do I want to say? We are the conglomeration, of the whole, our lives by the time we're adults are the end equation of all of their faults, all of our parents' brokenness, but all of their great things, all of their love. Mm-hmm. Like we are literally little math equations that add all this up, subtract what needs to be subtracted, and we turn into these things that our parents are so instrumental in who we're going to become, in a good and in bad.
Yes, and it's interesting knowing friends and their kids and seeing like, oh, you are definitely taking after your mom right now. Like your mom does the same facial expression, or your dad expresses his anger just like this. In which, like, my mom will sometimes say that to me, like, your dad and you are so much alike when you guys get angry. And I'm like, how dare you?
When it's really freaky is when I realize I've done something that my dad does, or I'm taking after him in some way, and I know it to be true. Mm-hmm. And I didn't grow up with him. I did not live with my dad growing up. And so that's really weird and kind of out there and makes you really think about the genetics and of who the end result of who we are, how that comes to be.
It's a combination of nature and nurture.
But I bring this up because I've noticed some changes there's always generational things. There's different ways these generations react to to learning that they are the result of all their parents' wins, good things, but also all their parents' mistakes and brokenness.
Yes.
And there's different generational reactions to that. And I think recently, the hard thing for us to talk about this is the most recent generations, and maybe it's fueled by the internet, maybe it's fueled by social media, but there's really this kind of atmospheric need to really pile on the blame to our parents.
Yes.
For breaking us, which as pastors, we would say, oh, they totally did that. Your parents totally broke you. But the rest of the story is their parents broke them, and their parents broke them, and their parents. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yes. And I also think that we completely missed the boat that some of the things that build up resiliency in us come from our parents. So, like, it's not just all the bad. Anything that's gotten you to this point is from them.
Right. Well, even bad. Mm-hmm. So I can honestly look back on my life and say even the bad things that have been perpetrated on me, whether they were conscious or subconscious, have helped me grow. You don't, the famous little thing about when times are good, you don't grow when times are good because they're good. You're comfortable.
No pain, no gain.
Exactly. You don't have to grow. So there's something to the tough times that it is. Anyways, that's all to say, like, I understand all that from the younger generations because in my 20s, I really felt like this kind of ill will towards my parents who, like, listen, I'm a product of a broken home. It was hard. Step family homes, toxic situations, all of that. I've talked pretty openly about all of this on this show and our podcast. But in my 20s, I was very angry. I was just very angry at my parents. What I have learned since then, besides coming to Christ, being saved, is I'm getting a more general picture of what it means to be human and understanding that there are no, one of the traps we fall into is thinking there are good people and evil people.
Yeah, I would say that honestly, it's just variations of broken.
Yes, absolutely. We're just all different levels of broken. Some of us aren't broken as much. Some of us are broken a lot. And then our behavior is broken. And so that's what results in, you ever heard the saying, hurt people hurt people? Of course you have. You're in mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's totally true. The more hurt you've been, the more you might hurt people. And it's not your fault. Let me just say that again. It's not your fault. But it doesn't absolve us from trying to see within ourselves, understand the parts of us that are broken, so we can start healing, becoming different people. And guess what part of that is? The healing. Looking at the people who hurt us and forgiving them. So Cody, this story, I came across this story and it was very interesting to me. And it involves pop culture, so it fits.
It does.
But it's a story about parents and children and about the things that when we're younger, maybe we're angry about, but then coming to the conclusion over time that maybe in your anger, you were guilty of the same things, right? You just didn't see something the way it should be seen. Anyways, it's a story about Ryan Reynolds, who's one of the biggest movie stars on the planet right now. He's in that Deadpool Wolverine movie. He was in the movie If that came out a few months back. Super funny dude. The way he's talked about in Hollywood is that it's not just an act. He's genuinely kind. He cares about people. Super, by all accounts, a super great guy. But he had an interview with People, and I wanted to talk to you about this because it's very interesting. He spoke to People magazine about how the death of his father a decade ago still affects him to this day. So his dad was named James Reynolds. He died in 2015. He was 74 years old. He had a 20-year battle with Parkinson's disease, which,
it's rough.
Yeah, just a hard life, especially there at the end. The 47-year-old actor was talking about this with People, and he was reflecting on it. And he said this, quote, he said, "I know who I am now. I've known who I am for the last 10 years or so. Now, full stop, I so identify with this. I'm 1 year older than Ryan Reynolds, and look it, by the way." But I can honestly say it took me until about 10 years ago to really figure myself out. And here's the funny thing about your relationships. You can't hope to understand them until you know you.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm not even a mental health expert, but I'm telling you, until you figure out who you are and where your brokenness lies, you are not going to be able to understand your interactions in the past and how your brokenness affected. Because we know how other people's brokenness affects us. We've got that down, which speaks to the culture kind of blaming our parents for things. Mm-hmm. But until we learn about our own brokenness, we don't understand how we played a part.
Yes. I see a lot of people that try to, quote unquote, help fix others and not look in the mirror and examine who they are. And so getting to a point where you can actually better know who you are and what has gotten you to this point is a big, big breakthrough where you can actually be beneficial to other people because you are being a better version, or in some cases, maybe the best version of yourself. So yes, I'm intrigued to hear about my dear friend Ryan.
Yeah. Can I offer a little advice for people? Because something you said just reminded me of that. Mm-hmm. The people that like to want to try and fix people, the best way you can do that is just love them. Mm-hmm. Just love people. You're living in a world of brokenness. Everything's broken. That's what we believe as pastors. In this world, our worldview is that creation is broken and it runs through the middle of each one of us. So you aren't the fixer.
No.
You can't fix people, but you can love them, and love can change things.
So my metaphor is usually that our world is right now an unput together mosaic window.
Oh,
that
yeah.
There's broken fragments all around. And if you allow God in to move in those pieces and put them in the right place, you can see something even more beautiful than something that's unbroken.
Oh, that was amazing. Listen to the tenderness of Cody. Every once in a while it comes out.
It does.
And it's just beautiful. What a beautiful thing to witness.
Compassionate Cody.
Okay, so we've kind of set the scene here for where we're going to go with this story. And we're talking about Ryan Reynolds. And he gave this interview, which normally I don't think this would be super interesting reading for most people who just want to know more about Ryan Reynolds, the actor.
Yeah.
But for us as pastors, this is the kind of stuff we see and we're like, ooh, human experience stuff.
And I think that it's probably more beneficial for all of us than maybe some of his more recent works, even though his art is very entertaining.
Yeah.
There's something that is deeper when you can share a common experience, but from your perspective, because what Dave may have experienced about 10 years ago might be a little bit different than what Ryan experienced about 10 years ago. And it might speak to me a little bit more than maybe Dave's experience, or maybe they both complement each other. And then it's like, whoa, this is what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. That's a really deep thing that Cody just said, in that, like, yeah, actually, here's this guy who's given joy to millions with his movies and his roles. People laugh. He makes people laugh. But actually, the most important thing he could have ever done was talk about this. So here's the scene. And immediately, a lot of people listening are going to start identifying with pieces of this immediately. So his father was a former police officer who was one of those guys who was a tough it out guy rather than to talk through what he was feeling. He wasn't a feelings guy. I mean, right there. Yeah. Most dads were like that for people. Ryan has said in the interview, it made it difficult for him and his father to be vulnerable with each other. Now, here's Pastor Dave again. I'm going to tell you that when you love someone, love comes with it the price tag of vulnerability. You can't love someone without being vulnerable. And so in a very real way, when we as men are not vulnerable and open with our sons, it's not loving. It can hurt. And we see this all the time. Ryan said it was difficult for him and his father to be vulnerable with each other, and eventually led to them becoming estranged. At this time, his dad's also grappling with delusions, hallucinations as a result of his Parkinson's. And he said in the interview, Ryan Reynolds did, I just thought my dad was losing his mind, noting that it was only later on he learned his father was struggling with lesser known symptoms of Parkinson's. And so he was having a problem not just judging his dad, because he was already in a place where their relationship was strained and hard. So he does something really out of the ordinary. He writes his dad this letter. And he says this, quote, I sent my dad a letter probably about 5 months before he died, and I'm very happy and grateful I did. The letter was basically a list of every amazing thing he ever did. Every time he showed up, every time he had a catch with me outside after baseball practice, every time he was just there. And if the man couldn't express his emotions in a way that was dynamic, well, many people can't. He was born in the 40s. You know, it's okay. So I'm super grateful that I sent a letter. I know for a fact it meant the world to him, and it went back from my earliest memories to present day, or as close to present day as possible. So he says it brought closure for them, for their relationship. I didn't get to be with him when he passed away, and I do wish I was, but he said that brought a sense of closure. Now let's examine what he did. When was the last time that for our loved ones, we simply went through a list of everything they had meant and done for us? It sounds so simple, and yet can be such an amazing boon for your relationship.
So I know some couples do this like during their wedding vows and or renewal of vows, because that's a big thing in culture today. But other than that, it's a rarity. Once in a while, as a pastor, I have heard of people writing a list or doing something kind of like what Ryan Reynolds did with a loved one that was dying. but it's a rarity.
I think, especially, I can think of young people I know out there who have anger for their parents. And I guess what I'm just saying is, I know there are reasons for all of you who are feeling that anger. I know there are reasons for you. There are justified reasons for anger towards your parents. But what I'm going to ask is, have you actually given a fair shake to the prospect of going back, starting from as long ago as you can remember, and start listing out the things that the parents you're angry with, the good things they did, the things that made you feel protected, the things that made you feel taken care of? Because I guarantee there's going to be some of those things there for most people.
The little moments of joy that not everyone gets to experience.
That's right. And I think as you do that, if you take this advice, to follow the lead of Deadpool and Wolverine star Ryan Reynolds.
Or Two Guys, a Girl in the Pizza Place star Ryan Reynolds.
Follow the lead of that and just start listing out anybody that you're angry with right now. List out the things they've meant to you, the good things they've brought to your life, the times they were there for you. And be honest and be fair. Because, like, especially when you're talking about your dad who was born in the 40s or 50s, understand that was a different time and that their brokenness included them struggling to be able to show love outwardly. So you're really going to have to look, dig in, and be fair and understand your dad or your mom and understand how they showed love and remember the times they did that for you. And to be grateful, to honestly let yourself be grateful and see if that doesn't help with the anger you have for them. See if that doesn't start to lower that a little bit, and where you can be honest and fair about the assessment of all people. We're broken. We're broken.
We are.